Lab 7 is fairly self-explanatory, but I want to go over a couple places where students lose points that shouldn't be lost. The first section here, for the most part, people get. You're looking at our Jovian or our gas giant planets, comparing them with our terrestrial or Earth-like planets. You're going to put the number or the phrase inside where they belong. Right? Jovian on this side of the Venn diagram, terrestrial on this side of the Venn diagram, and then what the all 8 planets have in common in the middle. Now, some of them, you can be like, well, 3 of the Jovian planets have that. Go ahead and put it in as a characteristic of the Jovian planets. This is going to be something we revisit later in the semester when we look at exoplanets, as well as formation of our solar system. This also becomes important when we look at distribution of temperatures and materials as our solar system was forming. You will be asked on an exam to talk about the differences and similarities between these planets, so spend some time getting to know your characteristics of your planets. The second part talks about the geology. Some of these planets, they're all the terrestrial planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and then I threw the moon in there as well. Even though it's not a planet, it is a planetary body that it does have a solid surface, so it is affected by geological processes. So you're going to look at each of the planetary bodies and each of the different types of processes that can affect a terrestrial-like planetary surface. Okay? And tell me an X in the column and row if the planet shows current, active, or fairly recent, geologically recent. So, we're talking a couple 100,000 years is fine for recent. An X for if it's currently having that process happen. A P if it had that process in the past but is no longer occurring present day. And think about it too. So some of these things like plate tectonics and tectonics are two different options. Tectonics is just the crustal movement of the surface of a planet, whereas plate tectonics includes enough stress on the surface that the crust breaks into giant chunks, giant plates that move around on the surface of that planet. Hence, Earth has plate tectonics and tectonics. So just keep that one in mind. Plate tectonics, you need to have a molten interior that is currently convecting because you need some sort of liquid material to move those plates around. And be careful with things like wind erosion. If there's no atmosphere, there can't be wind, so please keep that in mind. And that's the wind, the gravity, and the ice are probably where people lose the most points, so take care on those. The next section is probably the most complicated, and it's the one you should spend the most time. It's asking you to find a specific unique feature to each of the planets in question. Right? Now, telling me that Venus is really, really hot and has a greenhouse effect is not unique to that planet and is also not a specific feature that you can pinpoint a location on Venus. One, because greenhouse effect happens in the entire planet, so it's not a particular unique feature that can be pinpointed. And two, Earth also has a greenhouse effect on it, so it's not unique to Venus. Another one that messes people up are rings. Saturn has rings. Well, all the Jovian planets have rings. Saturn is just the biggest and brightest ring, so we associate that with Saturn. Again, it's not a specific feature that you can give a latitude or longitude for. So keep in mind that the feature name has to have a location on the planet. Okay? Tell me what it is. So you've named it, you've pointed it out. What is the feature? You can describe it, you can tell me how it formed, give me some information about it, and then explain why it's unique to that planet. Okay? So why doesn't all the other planets have that particular feature? Okay? So we have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. Notice Pluto is not there because Pluto is sadly not a planet. Please keep in mind, here's another hint for your exams. You will be asked the order of the planets on the exams. First exam, I always ask it. First exam, I always tell students. And first exam, I usually get about 10% of the class who miss it. So don't be part of that 10%. be the first online class to get all the order of the planets in your first couple of exams. So that's Lab 7. If you have any questions, please send me an email or Canvas message me.